David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Narwhal has come a long way. I recall seeing them at their very first show in DC with their very first model, which was a very reasonably priced demonstrator. They weren't sure how the pens would do, but I was actually confident that they would sell well. And indeed, by the end of the show, they were completely sold out. Fast forward a few years, and Narwhal has continued to release new and interesting models in a variety of price ranges. They've offered a number of higher-priced luxury offerings, but for the most part, Narwhal pens have remained fairly reasonably priced for what you receive. The new model that I have for you today is called the 365 Anniversary Plongeur. While at first glance it might look very similar to some other Narwhal models, upon closer examination, there's actually quite a bit different. And in order to get a closer look at this limited edition offering, please join me over here at camera 2. So the pen arrives in this box, has a little metallic look to it, and there is the Narwhal logo on the back. Inside, the box lifts up. And inside here we have the use and care guide and warranty information. And inside here we have the pen. So here we have the Anniversary 365 Plongeur from Narwhal. Now, Plongeur is spelled Plongeur. And in American, that kind of looks like plunger. But Plongeur is a person who is employed to wash ditches and carry out other menial tasks in a restaurant or a hotel. This pen is made from titanium. Now, I had mentioned that there's a number of different variations on this compared to the standard Narwhal Nautilus model. Let me go ahead and show one of those. This is the Horsehead Nebula model. So you can see some of the changes here, that the Plongeur is slightly thinner. The cap is more flush with the body. You can see that there's no band there. The portholes have been made smoother, and they don't have that ring around them. It also has a spring clip, which I'll show you here in a second, which is different. And also, as we'll see when I take the cap off, it is the first Narwhal that's been equipped with an ebonite feed. So let's take a look at the parts and features of this pen. As I mentioned, well, first of all, it does have that torpedo shape to it. It is rounded at the end, and I like the way that the spring clip kind of bisects the top. And you can see here that it is a spring clip, so you can see it rock just a little bit. And it does have a decent amount of tension to it. You can see here printed on the end, it does have the limited edition number of this pen. There are 365 that have been made. The cap is straight, and that there is no step down between the cap and the barrel. And there's really no external branding on this pen at all, so there's no band. Then we have the 3 portholes, which serve as ink windows. Now, this pen is inked right now, so you really can't see through there, but they do a good job of letting you know your ink situation. Then the rest of the barrel is straight. And then back here we have the piston knob. This is a piston filler. And then the very back is rounded as well. That the cap twists off with just under, I'll say about 1.5 rotations. And underneath we have a number of different things. First of all, we have this number 6 nib. Oh, you can see a bit of nib creep that happened in there. But this is a number 6 nib. I've always liked the imprint of Narwhal nibs. I just thought they looked rather nice. And then here's a look at that ebonite feed. Now, it kind of from a distance does look like it's a plastic feed, but no, that's indeed an ebonite feed. It has some telltale lines in there, but it's shaped kind of like a plastic feed. So at first glance, you might think it's plastic, but it is really ebonite. And this nib is actually available in fine, medium, broad, double broad, as well as a stub. The section begins with a slight angled flare. And then the section just angles up slightly. While it has the appearance of being slick metal, there is a very, very tiny groove on here. I don't know if you can really even tell it here on the video, but you can feel it. And it is just a little minuscule groove, which does a good job of helping you maintain a grip on this pen. And I wish that other manufacturers would do that as well in regard to the slick metal sections. So it doesn't necessarily look as shiny as the rest of the pen, but I don't think it looks that much different. And the difference between the grip that you get on this as opposed to something that doesn't have that texture on it, it would be significant. Then we have the threads here in the back and a rather large step up to the remainder of the barrel. But I do find this section to be long enough that this back portion here and this step up really doesn't come into play for me. And I don't find the metal threads to be sharp at all, but then with the angle that I'm holding it, as well as the angle of the step up, you really don't come into contact with them at all. As I mentioned, this is a piston filler, and it has a decent ink capacity to it as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at some measurements, and then we'll get ahead and take a look at the writing sample. Well, before the writing sample, let's take a look at some size comparisons. That I had shown you what it looked like with a standard Nautilus model. Again, that's the Horsehead Nebula. And then in regard to a couple of other Narwhal models, this is what it looks like with the Horizon. And then here is the original demonstrator Rainbow Wrasse, which I just really like this material. This was an exclusive through Goldspot. And in regard to one more Narwhal pen, this was the original Narwhal pen, which was their original demonstrator, which was a really nice pen in its own regard. And a couple of non-Narwhal pens. Here it is with a Platinum 3776 Yamanaka, as well as a Diplomat Arrow. In regard to uncap comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Diplomat Arrow. And then here it is with the 3776 Yamanaka. And then here it is with the original demonstrator. So here we have the Narwhal. And this is the 365 anniversary. And this is the Plongeur. I do like the looks of this titanium. I think it's a pretty sharp pen. This pen here is a fine, and the ink that I'm using here is from Narwhal. And it is their Jade. This is what the ink looks like. It's a kind of a lighter shade of jade, as opposed to something a little bit darker like Papier Plume's Water Gardens, or even Tassia's Saba Midori, which is one of my favorite inks. This is what the 20 milliliter bottles look like, and the Narwhal does have a number of different ink colors to choose from. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. Now, fine nibs are typically not my thing. I mean, this is a stainless steel nib. It does have a gold nib option as well, which is a 14 karat gold nib that the Narwhal makes in-house, which is available in fine and medium. But this steel nib is a bit on the stiff side. But I don't find it to be unpleasant. I don't find it to be scratchy or sharp, which is what I usually don't care for in a fine nib, at least on some of them. I will say the ink flow is on the lower end with this particular pen. See, in reverse writing, it really doesn't particularly work well with this specific nib. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up well. Though I think maybe later on I might play with the tines to open it up a little bit more, just to increase the ink flow a little bit. I think it could use just a tad more in regard to the ink flow. So there we have the Narwhal 365 Anniversary Plongeur. It's really interesting to see, like I said up top, how Narwhal has progressed over the years. And I think that this is a really nice offering. I think that it has a bit of a different look, and it's always nice to see them doing something a little bit different, especially with the hinged clip, which is nice, and then the more flush ink windows, which is nice. And then the piston knob is very nice to use as well, and the mechanism is fairly smooth. So I know that this is a limited edition. It is a little bit tough to find them right now, but it still might be worth the search in tracking one down. The price for these is $199, and then if you're able to find one of the gold nib versions, those sell for $365. But at $199, that's not too much different than some of the other standard Narwhal models in regard to the Nautilus, and I think that this one looks pretty sharp. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.